I learned so much by listening. I learned by listening to my wife. I learned by listening to my sons. I learned by listening to my grandchildren. I learned by listening to other people. I'm not always the best listener in the world, but when I do listen well, I find that I have been blessed and benefited greatly. One of the areas where we listen at Church Answers is the constant feedback loop that we have from people who write us, who visit our blogs, our podcasts, who are part of the Church Answers community, Church Answers membership. And I'm just blessed because I'm able to hear what God is doing in local churches. At Church Answers, we've had an unusually high demand for church consultations, particularly virtual consultations during COVID, and then more and more on the field consultations since COVID. And in one of those consultations, I worked with a church that is really doing an incredible job on pastoral succession. I'm not going to name the church for a number of reasons. One, I haven't asked permission. Number two, I think this is going to end well, but it's in process, and I don't want to put the pressure on them. And number three, I certainly don't want to breach any confidentiality. But simply to say, I'm going to give you a case study in pastoral succession that seems to be working. It really seems to be successful pastoral succession. Our sponsor is Belay. You know that if you've listened to me at all, belaysolutions.com. They are the productivity experts. They're the ones who provide you with the people that they match your organization with. High bar to even be a part of the Belay team to then come upon your team. And they do the things that maybe you are not as adept at doing. And therefore, they make you more productive. They make your organization, they make your church more productive. That is why they've come out with an ebook called The Power of Productivity. You can download it for free by going to THOM 55123. That's THOM 55123. Belay Solutions. They are the productivity experts. Okay, this case study in successful pastoral succession. What are some of the elements of it? Why am I viewing this particular succession as something that I think is going to really work? Number one, there are two pastors who are not threatened by each other. So you have the current pastor on board, and then you have the succession pastor on board, and they are not threatened by each other. Now, what is kind of unusual in this situation, there's going to be a 2 or 3 year on-ramp. I think it's going to end up being around 2 or even 18 months when it's all said and done. But there's 2 to 3 year on-ramp, and they really respect each other. They really, they do not seem insecure in the other's gifts. So the first thing is you have two secure pastors, and the one of them is younger and one of them is older. They both demonstrate that security. They both enjoy the gifts of the other one. So two secure pastors. Number two, they are sharing the preaching from the onset. The most visible place for a pastor, of course, is in the pulpit. And what they are doing is they're doing month on, month off. And so one of the pastors will preach every Sunday, whether it's 4 or 5 Sundays in that month, and then the other pastor will come along and do the same. That is highly unusual. Usually, the successor is not preaching nearly as much as the current pastor. And so I admire this. Again, it's a sign of the security of the lead pastor that he is able to say to the successor younger pastor, let's alternate every other week. Let's get ready to do that. A third thing that I see that is happening in this is a short-term tenure intentionally planned for the pastor. In other words, he has said at a maximum 2 to 3 years. Again, it's probably going to be shorter than that, but the people know the framework. His next step is going to be retirement, where he's going to be doing some other ministries. You can tell that he is looking forward to that time. And contrary to many succession stories, I think that it is going to be a time when that pastor leaves, that he will do so joyfully, not because he's leaving a church that he loves, because he knows it's the right time with the right person. So that shorter tenure of this lead pastor is making way for a good transition. So what is another reason? Another reason is this pastor, with the help of others, sought successfully, almost couldn't get those words out, sought successfully to find the best person they could. This pastor was not out there looking for someone that may not shine as brightly as his role. He was looking for someone that could even shine more brightly. Again, this goes to the security thing that we're talking about, where they're secure in who God had made them and they're confident about one another. And so this pastor sought the best possible person to succeed him. When I asked the younger pastor, the successor pastor, what attracted him to this church, he said there were two things. One, it was the security of the pastor that we've already mentioned. He didn't seem to be threatened at all by bringing on someone really bright. And then two, the fact that he said right away, we're going to share the preaching equally. He said that was a huge statement. It was a statement that he was bringing me on as an equal to ultimately be the pastor. And so this pastor went after the best person he could find, a person who was being sought after by many other churches, some of them for lead pastor, but he really saw the opportunity to have a period of learning the church, learning the people, and being guided by an older mentor. It is a very healthy relationship. It is not something that we frequently see. I can't tell you how many times we've seen succession plans fall apart. We've seen succession plans not do what they're supposed to do. We have seen succession plans be threatened by the insecurity of one or both of the pastors. But this is a case study that I think is going to work. The question that I would ask is, can it be replicated? Now, theoretically, it can, in the sense that you find two people who are secure in who they are in God. It can be replicated because they can intentionally share the preaching. It can be replicated because the pastor is the current pastor who is leaving has a short-term off ramp, so the on ramp can happen pretty quickly. And it can happen because the senior pastor, lead pastor, I should say, was looking for the best possible person to succeed him. So yes, it can theoretically happen. Yes, it can happen spiritually. But those are four factors that are not common in many churches. Succession does not take place as strongly as this because one or more of the pastors does not have security, because they don't share the preaching, because the off ramp of the current pastor is unknown, and because they didn't necessarily seek out the best person to succeed the current pastor. This has been an exciting case study for me. I'm not done with it. I'll be watching this church over the next several months to see what happens as transition really begins and as people begin to watch this baton being passed. But right now, this is a great case study of something that I think is really working. And maybe I'll come back to you in some other time and give you the end result to this, and maybe I'll have permission and feel comfortable to tell you which church specifically did this. But for right now, I'm going to keep it in anonymity, and I'm just going to simply say, I have found one case study, one church that I think is really going to get the job done in succession. As always, thank you for being a part of the Church Answers podcast. Give us a rating and review wherever you listen to whatever favorite podcast app is, or if you're in the growing audience on YouTube watching us, give us a review, subscribe there, so that we can continue to provide this ministry to many people. And this ministry is provided by Belay. They pay the bills so that we can give this as a free resource to you 3 times a week. So thank Belay, and go look them up at belaysolutions.com. They are the productivity experts. You have 3 episodes that have dropped this week. So every week we drop 3 brief episodes, and I hope these nuggets have been good for you. And let me remind you, and I'm not going to be saying this a whole lot anymore, but my new book is out, When the People Pray. And it's a book about praying for pastors over 30 days. Let me suggest you get it, look at it, and hand it to the people so that they can be offering a prayer covering for their pastor. As always, thank you for being a part of the Church Answers podcast. I am honored that you come and listen or view, and I hope I'll see you in a future episode. Hey, folks, this is a PS to our podcast. We got some exciting stuff that we want to offer you absolutely for free. Sam, when you think about predictive factors in a church's growth, if you take out demographics, what are some things that come to mind? Just two. I mean, don't give me a list of 10. Just two or three things that come to mind on predictive growth of a church.
Well, evangelism and whether the church is doing it or not.
Bingo.
And then I will add, is it an ongoing evangelism emphasis?
Double bingo. Well? And maybe something about leadership and their commitment to that. So all of the above.
Evangelistic churches have evangelistic pastors. Is the staff, is the lead pastor doing the work themselves?
We have a free download for you, and it's actually a sheet that you can self-score. You answer 20 questions, anywhere from strongly disagree to strongly agree. And we come back and we predict what your growth rate is going to be for the next year in worship attendance. It's not a perfect tool, but it's a good tool. There's a link to that for the attendance predictor. Look in the show notes. You'll absolutely love it. That's cool. We'll see you soon.